The golden hour bathed downtown in its final, fading light, casting long amber shadows that stretched like tired fingers across the busy streets. Rebecca Sterling moved quickly through the crowd, her sharp heels clicking against the pavement in a rhythm that felt too loud in her ears. Normally, she carried herself with the confidence of someone who knew exactly where she belonged, head high, shoulders squared, stride purposeful. But tonight her steps faltered, betraying the storm inside her. Her phone was clutched so tightly in her hand that her knuckles were white. The words from the call still echoed in her mind like a verdict. Effective immediately, Miss Sterling. Security will escort you out. It hadn't been just a conversation. It had been an execution of everything she had built over the last 3 years at Meridian Financial. 60-hour work weeks, countless late nights, family birthdays missed, relationships sacrificed, all gone, erased in one ruthless sweep because of false accusations and office politics. Rebecca had been blindsided. The items from her meticulously curated corner office had already been stripped away from her, stuffed into a cardboard box by someone else's hands. Security had handed it to her like she was a thief rather than a senior investment advisor who had once been entrusted with millions. They hadn't looked at her as a colleague. They had looked at her as a liability. Her chest tightened under the weight of it all. She could barely breathe. Her savings, 2 months, maybe. Her reputation, in tatters, spread like wildfire through the insular financial community. Her apartment lease, renewed just last month, now a trap she couldn't afford. The skyscraper she had once looked up to with pride now felt like towering judges, looking down on her failure. Behind her, unnoticed, another figure pushed forward quietly through the evening. Marcus Rodriguez moved slowly, guiding his janitor's cart along the sidewalk. At 38, the late shift at Meridian Financial had become his world, a rhythm he followed faithfully every night after spending his days caring for his 9-year-old daughter, Sophia. She had been born with cerebral palsy, and her care demanded more than time. It demanded resilience. Marcus knew everyone in that building. Not personally, not in the way they knew each other over conference calls and cocktails, but by sight, by habits, by the little things they never thought anyone noticed. And yet, most of them had never really seen him. Rebecca Sterling had been different. She was one of the few who always said good evening, even when her arms were full of files and her phone glued to her ear. Once, when Marcus had worked extra hours cleaning up after a chaotic client meeting, he had found a $20 bill and a note on her desk for coffee. Thank you. That was why when he saw her leaving the building with security at her heels, face pale and hands trembling, he paid attention. He had seen distress before, in his reflection during nights when bills piled higher than his paychecks, when Sophia's diagnosis had left him believing the future was a wall he couldn't climb. Now he saw it in her. Rebecca's stride was stiff, her shoulders locked in brittle composure, but there was a stumble, just slight, in her usually graceful walk. And Marcus knew. He knew enough to follow, telling himself it was because his bus stop was in the same direction, but his gut said otherwise. When she turned down a side street, the unease sharpened, and when she veered toward Riverside Bridge, his chest tightened. He knew what that bridge meant. Everyone in the city did. Rebecca's voice cut sharply through the air when she finally noticed him. Don't follow me. Her words cracked with a mix of anger and humiliation. I'm not going to be robbed on top of everything else. Marcus stopped instantly, raising both hands in a gesture of peace. Ma'am, he said softly, I'm not here to bother you. I work in your building. I just want to make sure you're okay. She looked at him properly for the first time, taking in the Meridian uniform under his worn jacket. Her shoulders sagged, though her voice stayed brittle. I'm fine. Just leave me alone. But Marcus had watched her for years. He had seen her working when everyone else had gone home. He had seen her tired smile, her kindness in small moments. He had seen enough to recognize the fragile edge in her tone now. Miss Sterling, he said carefully, his voice carrying the weight of lived truth. I know it's not my place, but whatever happened today, it's not worth what you're thinking of doing. Her composure cracked like glass under pressure. She spun on him, fury and despair spilling out in one ragged breath. You don't know anything about my life. You don't know what I've lost. Everything I worked for, gone. I have nothing left. Marcus met her eyes steadily. You have tomorrow, he said simply. And the day after that. It doesn't feel like much right now, but trust me, things can change faster than you think. Her laugh was bitter, hollow, easy for you to say. You don't understand what it's like to lose everything. Marcus hesitated only for a breath, then spoke in a voice gentle enough to still the tremor in her chest. My daughter was born with cerebral palsy. The doctor said she might never walk, never speak clearly, never have a normal life. Her mother, she couldn't handle it. She left when Sophia was 2. I had to quit my job as an accountant to care for her full time. Rebecca blinked, stunned. The raw truth in his words stripped her assumptions bare. For a while, Marcus continued, his tone quiet but unwavering, I thought my life was over too. I went from managing corporate finances to scrubbing office floors at night. There were days I thought Sophia would be better off without me. Her voice dropped to a whisper. What changed? Marcus' gaze softened, a memory lighting in his eyes. Sophia, when she was 4, she took her first steps, not because anyone said she could, but because she wanted to reach me. She had been watching me struggle, and she decided she was going to fight too. She taught me that sometimes the best thing you can do is just keep going until you figure out what comes next. Rebecca felt something shift inside her, like a window cracking open in a suffocating room. Tears burned at the edges of her vision. I don't know how to keep going, she admitted. My career is over. My reputation is destroyed. I don't have anything else. Can I tell you something I've learned from watching you? Marcus asked. She hesitated, then gave the faintest nod. You care about people more than most realize. I've seen you stay late helping junior associates. I've seen you talk clients down from panic. You don't just crunch numbers. You treat people with patience and respect. And he paused, his voice dipping low. A few months ago, when Sophia's wheelchair broke, you overheard me talking to my supervisor. You gave me the name of someone who could help. 2 weeks later, because of you, she had a new wheelchair. Rebecca's hand flew to her mouth. She remembered. She had given the contact almost offhandedly, not even knowing if it would help. That's not the action of someone with nothing left to give, Marcus said. The bridge loomed silent around them, but the darkness that had called to Rebecca moments ago now felt less suffocating. She could breathe again, even if just barely. I don't know what to do next, she whispered. You don't have to know tonight, Marcus replied. You just have to decide to see what tomorrow brings. They turned back from the bridge together, walking side by side in silence at first. Rebecca's hands trembled less now, though her heart still carried the weight of everything she had lost. Marcus didn't push her to talk. He simply matched his pace to hers, steady and calm, like an anchor holding her in place against a storm she thought would sweep her away. By the time they reached the bus stop, the city lights had flickered on, scattering golden reflections across the river. Marcus told her more about Sophia, how she loved puzzles, how she struggled in school but never gave up, how she wanted to be a teacher someday. He spoke with quiet pride, his voice filled with hope that carried a strength Rebecca hadn't felt in herself for hours. She wants to meet you, Marcus said, almost shyly. I've told her about the nice lady in the building who always says hello and who helped us with the wheelchair. She thinks you're some kind of superhero. Rebecca's lips curved into a weak smile. She hadn't thought herself capable of that night. I'd like that, she said. And for the first time since her firing, she realized she meant it. In the days that followed, Rebecca wandered through unemployment like someone learning to breathe underwater. Job rejection stung harder than she expected. The silence from old colleagues, once friends, cut even deeper. But the memory of Marcus' words, the reminder tomorrow, kept her from drowning completely. She started small. Each morning, she forced herself to get up, make coffee, and take a walk. Each afternoon, she sent out applications. But in the evenings, when the loneliness pressed hardest, she found herself thinking of Marcus and Sophia. One Saturday, after running into Marcus at a coffee shop near the community center, Rebecca agreed to join him at a volunteer meeting. The nonprofit supported families of children with special needs. At first, She fell out of place among the parents and caregivers. She was a woman whose career had imploded, not someone who understood the daily grind of hospitals, therapies, and bills. But as she listened, she realized she had something valuable to offer: her financial expertise. She began helping families set up budgets, apply for benefits, and navigate the maze of paperwork. Her spreadsheets and strategies weren't just numbers anymore. They were lifelines. The gratitude in her eyes gave her a sense of purpose she had never found in the polished corridors of Meridian Financial. One evening, after a workshop, a woman named Elena clasped Rebecca's hands and said, "I didn't sleep for weeks worrying about how I'd pay for my son's treatments. Tonight, I feel like I can breathe again. You gave me that." The words lodged deep in Rebecca's chest. She hadn't realized until then that she had been craving this very thing. Not recognition, not prestige, but meaning. It was at one of these workshops that Rebecca met Dr. Patricia Hernandez, the director of a foundation dedicated to financial literacy for families in crisis. Dr. Hernandez, sharp-eyed yet warm, listened to Rebecca explain a strategy for managing medical debt. Afterward, she pulled Rebecca aside. "You understand both the math and the humanity," she said. "That combination is rare. We could use someone like you." Rebecca blinked, unsure. "You mean a job?" "A calling," Dr. Hernandez corrected gently. "But yes, a paid one. Program development, outreach, education. We need people who can build systems but never forget the people inside them. You strike me as exactly that." For the first time since the day her career had collapsed, Rebecca felt hope not as a distant concept, but as something real, tangible. She accepted. 6 months later, Rebecca Sterling was no longer the woman staring at the dark waters beneath Riverside Bridge. She was a program director at the foundation, designing tools that helped families like Marcus and Sophia find stability in the chaos of medical crises. Her days were filled with meetings, workshops, and travel, not to corporate boardrooms, but to community centers, schools, and hospitals. She saw herself in every exhausted parent. She saw her former self in every young professional trying to balance ambition with humanity, and she realized she had found something more valuable than prestige: fulfillment. Marcus, meanwhile, still worked his night shifts at Meridian Financial, but he no longer defined himself by them. With Rebecca's encouragement, he began co-leading weekend workshops. His perspective of scraping by, of finding dignity in work others overlooked, resonated with people more than any polished lecture could. He was proof that resilience was possible. "You know," Rebecca said one evening as they packed up after session, "I never really thanked you for that night." Marcus looked puzzled. "For what?" "For seeing something in me when I couldn't see it myself. For reminding me I had worth." He shook his head with a small smile. "You gave me that first, Miss Sterling. Every time you treated me with respect in a building where most people didn't even look my way. You told me I mattered. That's worth more than you know." Her throat tightened. "So we were saving each other all along." "The best rescues usually work like that," Marcus replied. "People think heroes wear capes, but most of the time, they're just people who notice when someone's about to disappear and refuse to let it happen." Rebecca grew close to Sophia, who adored her with a fierce loyalty only children possess. Sophia showed her math homework proudly, told her about her dream of becoming a teacher, and often teased Marcus for being too serious. One afternoon, Sophia asked Rebecca to attend her school presentation. "She's doing a project on heroes," Marcus explained at the bus stop, "and she wants to include you." Rebecca's eyes softened. "Me? Why me?" "Because," Marcus said with a grin, "she says the best heroes are the ones who don't wear capes. The ones too busy helping people to worry about looking impressive." Rebecca laughed, but later, as she sat on her couch surrounded by notes from her new job, tears filled her eyes. She had thought losing Meridian Financial was the end of everything. In truth, it had been the beginning. On the day of Sophia's presentation, Rebecca sat in a small school auditorium, surrounded by the chatter of children and the rustle of papers. When Sophia wheeled herself on stage, her voice rang clear. "My hero is someone who helps people when they feel like they have nothing left. She listens. She makes them believe in tomorrow. She doesn't wear a cape because real heroes don't need one. My hero is Miss Rebecca Sterling. The applause blurred through Rebecca's tears. She glanced at Marcus, who smiled proudly from the audience, and for a moment, everything aligned, the broken pieces of her old life forming a mosaic she had never imagined. She realized then what Marcus had given her that night on the bridge. Not just comfort, but a new definition of success. It wasn't corner offices, bonuses, or titles. It was the impact you left on the lives around you. Sometimes the person who saves you is the one you never expected to notice you were drowning. And sometimes in the act of being saved, you find a reason to become someone else's hero too.